We're back with episode 2 of Monday Madness with Morgan and Machine. And today we try to squeeze a few more M's into that moniker as we talk monster movies. Welcome to the madness. Hey guys, I've got my cocktail, I've got my Morgan, and we're gonna talk some stuff today.
I don't have a cocktail, but I do have a machine. And that's you. You're the machine. I am Morgan. This is Monday Madness with Morgan and Machine. That's how it works. I was quite pleased with myself there.
Yes.
I managed to make it make sense. I don't quite know how I did that.
Good
but
job.
Yes.
Good job.
We are definitely adding M's into the realm of this show today. Too many M's. You can never have too many M's,
No.
Jeannine, as we found out with
letter.
the title. It's a pretty good letter. Pretty good letter. But we are talking monster movies in a main discussion today. We'll also be talking about Miss Marvel at some point as well.
M's.
And I still need to remember to actually look at you guys watching on YouTube. Hi, there you are. You're not down here.
Yes.
You're up there.
We're new to the on-camera podcast type thing. You know, everybody's doing it. We're kind of late to the party in terms of that. We're more of the
little bit
audio-only podcast.
We are. But yeah, I mean, thank you to everybody that did listen and watch last week's opening episode of Monday Madness. We really enjoyed doing it. There's things we need to iron out, definitely, but there was always going to be things.
Yeah, we're working.
Always going to be things in a pilot show, but the vast majority of things we were actually quite happy with how everything came out, and it's just getting us more excited, I think, Jeannine, for more things to come.
Yes,
from
definitely.
Monday Madness, as we just chill out, we talk about things that are happening. We always have our nice little main discussion, or we always want to have our nice little main discussion, and then play a fun game as well at the end. It will not be the same game this week than it was last week. We played a nice game of 6 degrees last week. I think we just got some trivia questions today, but still, that's always fun, isn't it? You should know things about fun trivia questions, Jeannine.
Yes, I think you're going to put me on the spot. I mean, I don't know if I want to put out there that I am a professional movie trivia competitor. So when you give me questions that I don't know, I'm going to look like a complete idiot. But
not necessarily. What if they're very hard questions? You know what I'm like when it comes to thinking of questions.
Yeah, you get a little overcomplicated, but I think it'll still be fun.
So. I can sometimes, admittedly, get quite overcomplicated. But yes, Jeannine, there is plenty of nonsense that has happened this week in the world of movies, which, granted, is what we kind of mainly discuss and mainly are going to discuss, because it is what we are mainly interested in.
Yes.
Even though sometimes we will delve into other such facets of our lives on this show as well. But Jeannine, as I will like to start the show by saying, and will hopefully always say, sup.
I like how you say that.
So do I. Just loudly. Sup. What's happening? What's going on?
Yes.
I could sing what's going on, but nobody wants to sing. Nobody wants to hear that.
No one wants to hear you do some
People do want to sing it. Nobody wants to hear me trying to do a poor impression of Marvin Gaye's voice, do they? No. I don't want that. I don't want that. You don't want that either.
I'm just being polite and not saying that I don't want that.
There's no need to be polite, Jeannine. You know, just come out and say,
okay, no,
you're a terrible singer, Morgan, and I never
You're good at plenty of things, but sounding like Marvin Gaye is not one of them. So,
no,
what's up, Morgan? What's up?
What is up is, first off, well, we had episode 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
We
come out this week
did.
that people are still unnecessarily hating on for no reason.
I don't get it. I
I
don't
don't
get
get it
it.
either.
I'm enjoying Obi-Wan. I think it's a great telling of just a little nugget of time that we didn't get to see. We know these stories well enough to have seen kind of where they end up, but there were a lot of things we didn't see. And so getting that kind of little behind the curtain glimpse of moments in time that have been referenced to and whatnot, but now we're actually getting to see how they played out, I think is really fun. So I'm enjoying the ride. I don't know. I don't know. People just want to be
So
hating.
I
I
think
don't like
people do just want to be hating, Jeannine. I think that is an accurate explanation of people's behaviour,
Yes.
to be honest with you. What would people possibly find wrong with Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 4? We got to see Ewan McGregor get his lightsaber out fully again
Oh
and
my
actually
gosh.
start cutting
But, like,
people down. It
even
was
how that
fun.
scene
I
was, it
enjoy
was
it.
completely a dark room, and then you just see the
Right.
glow of the lightsaber illuminate
Yes.
and just guys getting taken out. Like, that was so cool looking. You get this whole kind of, mission in this underground water base. Like, that was a very cool atmosphere setting. We kind of see what's happening to the Jedi. Like, they're turning it into this kind of Jedi morgue. Like,
Well, I couldn't quite make heads or tails of what that was. It seemed like they were cryogenically freezing
yeah,
Jedi.
it's like this is not, this is a tomb. So they're just
Yeah.
putting them on display, I guess,
Well,
to
not
just
Jedi. I suppose it's Force-sensitive people, isn't it?
people.
Any
Yes.
Force-sensitive
Yeah.
person. But there's like small children in there because, well, the
Yes.
Empire. The Empire is evil in Star Wars, Jeannine. We know the
We
Empire
know that.
is evil. The Empire displays its evilness all the time and does so certainly in this episode as well.
Well, I'm hearing some theories, some fun theories about Moses Ingram's character actually being a youngling. And she might have been that one when, in the beginning of the series, when you see the kids escaping and, there was one girl that said, like, we got to get out of here. They're thinking maybe that was a young her. And over time, she kind of, she got disheartened on the whole concept of the Jedi, but she could have potentially been one of those younglings that escaped. So the fact that there is a youngling, cryogenically frozen, one of these things, this could have been one of her, Jedi friends as a kid.
I question then why, if she was a youngling, is she so obviously in love with Vader? Because as we all know, Jeannine, in
Yeah,
Revenge of the Sith,
he-
Vader goes into the Jedi Temple and you get that one little kid, Master Skywalker, there are too many of
Poor
them.
kid.
What are we going to do? In the stupidest accent you've ever heard. That is exactly how he speaks, by the way. I've always hated that line delivery deeply. I do. I am a child of the prequels, as people know. But oh my,
Which is
Master
better?
Skywalker, what are we going to do? Oh, put some effort in. I don't care if you're 8 years old, put some effort into your line delivery, son. I was always just a bit feeling like that.
Which was worse, that kid or the grim kid from Harry Potter?
No. I will hear
We love the
no
grim
bad.
kid, right?
I will hear no bad words about that kid from Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. His line delivery is absolutely spot on. It's so morbid and morose, his
Yes.
line delivery.
Distant stares and everything.
It's perfect. The grim, the darkest omen in our world. The omen of death. It's great.
And like we never
Well
see that
done.
kid again.
We don't need to. We don't need to. No, we do. He comes back later on in the movie when Sirius Black escapes and it's like trying to catch smoke.
It's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands.
It's so good. It's so good.
Sorry, I made the comparison.
It was
It's
just
the way you were saying it was giving me vibes of
it
that.
was,
Your
it is
imitation of the youngling was giving me those
it's
vibes.
it's Harry Potter movies. That kid is Harry Potter movies. Moving on from being like entirely self-serious, genuinely quite good movies, the first two. And just throw in a few memeable things in there up until you reach prime memehood in Goblet of Fire.
Yeah.
With the entire movie being one long meme, as we all know. And that's why I love it deeply. But yeah, I forgot what we're talking about
The
now.
youngling,
Star
and
Wars.
yeah, Star Wars. So yeah, there is a theory out there that she could have potentially been one of those younglings. So maybe, I don't know, she got jaded with the whole concept of the Force and things and Jedi and good
Probably.
sides and over time. So I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But
We
I
will.
will say, I feel like that character maybe is less menacing than she was to begin with. I don't know if it's just because she maybe had a lot of her scenes with a child, so she wasn't trying to be as menacing, but I loved how ruthless she was in those first couple episodes, and I feel like she's kind of maybe lost that a little bit in this fourth episode. So I don't know if that's something you kind of felt or you were kind of okay with, or you got kind of her behavior in the context of the situation she was in, or
Well, I just think where we are now, because I mean, look, we only have 2 episodes of
episodes
Obi-Wan
left.
Kenobi
Yeah, I think that's why people are
left.
disappointed because they expected more out of a 6 episode series. And the fourth episode, you're still kind of on this one mission. I don't know if they just expected each episode to be like Mandalorian. Each episode, we're going to another place and doing a different
Well,
thing,
yeah,
you
but
know?
do you not remember the Mandalorian season 1 was also quite like nothing seems to be happening.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it was quite like that, but then everybody liked the Mandalorian. The problem with Obi-Wan Kenobi is that it's about Obi-Wan Kenobi, and people are going to be like, "Well, Obi-Wan Kenobi doesn't do that." Hashtag not my Kenobi and all this nonsense. And no, not everybody's going to be happy. I mean, I think we spoke last week about how
Yeah.
disgraceful Star Wars fans are in general,
Yes.
or,
But I
or
think, yeah,
Star Wars fans, to use
this
significant
is,
air quotes.
yes, this is a known entity of a character that has been in the stories from the beginning, so it's kind of
Yeah,
more easy to judge and pick at things and think you know what this character would have done and not done and things like that. So
but if
I
there's
mean,
one,
I am very, like I've mentioned, I'm very casual to Star Wars, so I don't have that kind of, not my this and not my that with characters. I just kind of watch the story and see it progress. And if it interests me, it does. If it doesn't, I'm not going to watch it. But I've been enjoying Obi-Wan so far. I like this fourth episode. I liked, the whole kind of escape plan aspect. And I loved the rescue scene of, like I said, with the lightsaber kind of igniting. And,
yeah,
I really like the relationship between him and Leia. Um, yeah, like there was definitely some suspense in moments of trying not to get caught, and then just kind of the little nostalgia of seeing familiar things. And, you know, I think a lot of people were complaining about stormtroopers and their bad aim. Like he has stormtroopers shooting him from one
oh,
side and people attacking him from the other side.
wait,
But it's like that is just a thing. Like
wait.
that is really something you're going to complain about. That is like I am literally the most casual Star Wars fans, and I know that is just how it is with stormtroopers. They suck. So
Have you
to
actually
nitpick on
seen?
that, like, really?
Are you telling me you have seen human beings in this year at this time complain about the aim of stormtroopers?
Yes, I have.
I have no words for it. I have no words for it. What's the point in saying this particular thing is bad when that's literally been the case, the hilarious
Since the
case with
beginning of Star
stormtroopers
Wars time.
for
Yes.
45 years,
Yes.
you know?
Um, I was kind of expecting and maybe hoping a little bit to see more kind of flashback type memories. While Obi-Wan was in the Bantha tank, or is that what they call back to tank? Back to tank.
Oh, you
Um
don't want to be in a bantha tank.
no, back to tank.
The last place you want to
Uh
be is in a tank full of banthas. Wet
yes,
bantha.
that's
Imagine what
not good.
wet
As soon as I
bantha
said it, I was
smells
like, oh
like.
yeah, Banthas, that gross thing. Um, back
You
to
don't want
tank
to.
because yeah, when with the uh oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name?
What are you talking about? Are you talking
When
about Boba Fett in the
Boba
back to
Fett,
tank?
yes, when we've seen him in the back to tank, he was having these flashback memories to other moments. So I thought we would get some because you have Hayden in this series, and presumably we're not really going to see a lot of Hayden's face. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to flashback to moments where we can actually see Hayden being Hayden of memories with the two of them that we didn't really get to see. So I thought that would have been an opportunity to do that, but it was more
What
just
I
kind of
would
like
say.
showing this force connection and like them kind of fighting it like this, kind of back to another Harry Potter reference, like, you know, when Harry Potter and Voldemort find each other in each other's heads. Like, that's more of what it was. But I kind of wanted more of it to be like him flashing back to a memory and then it kind of going negative, and then maybe him having that freak out that he had.
Jeannine, who's to say that won't happen in the remaining episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi we have left?
Yes. I feel like we'll see that, because, like, why would you cast Hayden if it wasn't going to matter, you know?
All I will say is we know Obi-Wan Kenobi's great at a rescue mission. He's always been great at infiltrating evil things. Yes. And here is another example of him doing that, even when he is clearly not the man he used to be.
Yes. So fun, suspenseful, great episode. And now we have a little spy. She's put a tracker on Lola, so that's going to be, see where that goes. But I mean, I'm like thinking if she just takes her straight home, like, she's just going to be on Alderaan. So
kinda. Yeah. Like, I wonder where the Princess of Alderaan is.
Yeah, you need to know where Obi-Wan is. So unless they make several stops, and it's not going to matter. But I'm assuming they probably aren't just going to take her straight home. So we'll see.
We will certainly see. But yeah, I am enjoying Obi-Wan too. I don't see really any problem with it. It's just nice to relax a little bit. I don't know. You don't
People
need to be
expecting big booming things, and like episode 3, we got a huge big thing. So I don't know why that's not enough for people.
We really, really did. I don't know. Strange. I mean, I don't think I've seen as much of this negativity as you have, but I definitely have seen some of it.
Yeah, it's just I don't understand it. But there was another Disney Plus show that, you know, had an episode.
There certainly was, and I am quite excited about this because, well, the MCU's back. We've only had to wait 3 weeks since the last MCU thing. For God's sake, there's so much MCU. You can barely just not afford to watch anything else.
You cannot come into the MCU as a new fan now. Like, you
just can't watch anything else, can you, anymore? You've only really got time, unless you absolutely max out your watching like I've done this last week. You only have time to watch all the MCU stuff and maybe the odd TV show here and there that's something else. Everything else. If you've missed a TV show from 5 years ago, I'm afraid you're not going to ever watch that anymore because of the amount of MCU that you're getting. But Miss Marvel did also come out to pretty big fanfare. I mean, I love that it's such a cultural thing and culturally impactful story and just kind of show itself, as opposed to just being another MCU show. This means a hell of a lot to a hell of a lot of
people. And like, I'm someone, you know me, I'm like this big advocate for representation. I talk all the time about growing up and becoming a movie fan as a kid and constantly looking for representation in movies, looking for beautiful, dark-skinned, melanated Black people who look like me to make me feel like, you know, I could be a part of that story. I'm being represented. There are people who look like me who get to be a part of these cool adventures and cool stories. Like, that was my movie loving history as a kid growing up. So to see, you know, Pakistani people get this representation and be so excited about it and see it so well represented. You're not just seeing a high school kid who's living in this Marvel world, but you're also kind of seeing their culture and how they exist, you know, an Americanized team, but also kind of fusing that with their culture and their lifestyle, and something that maybe not a lot of people know about. So you're getting that insight as somebody watching it who maybe doesn't completely relate, but it's always an opportunity to learn and get insight on somebody else's life and world, and just to see that it's exciting people, like on levels of how Black Panther excited Black people. Like, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm really excited for this show. I really had a lot of fun with the first episode. I don't know what it was with pacing wise. I found myself kind of looking at the time, and I don't know why, because I was enjoying it, but I was like, how much longer does this have? Like, why do I feel like it's taking a while? Because I think I was just waiting for her to get her powers, and we saw the thing that was probably going to give her powers. So I'm like, okay, when are we going to get to how we get to these powers? I think that's what
it was kind of Shang-Chi-ish, really, isn't
Yeah.
it? Whereas she might have talent and kind of strength within herself, just like, Shang-Chi does. He's a good martial artist, but then he needs to put something on his wrist to actually do fancy
To make it
things.
happen. Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of like that. So maybe
Yeah.
maybe there'll be a few more instances of characters that aren't, that need a tool. But then I
Yeah.
suppose Tony Stark always needed a tool. He might have been very clever, but he was fairly useless without the suit.
Yeah.
I suppose there's quite a lot of that, really. So maybe that's just maybe that point I was trying to make is not actually a relevant point. But I really liked Miss
Yeah.
Marvel. I mean, look, I really like female coming of age stories anyway.
Yes.
I've
And I like
always said this. Don't know why. It's definitely got something to do with the fact that I do not have personal knowledge of what it's like to grow up as a girl.
Yeah, you will never know that experience, so it's a good
Exactly.
insight. On top of that, the cultural insight as
On
well.
top of that, the cultural insight as well. Exactly. Which is, I was just completely drawn into this. It felt the great thing, I think, about what the MCU is doing in Phase 4
Mhm.
is showing us, or having the TV shows in particular, such tonal difference from show to show. I mean, this came, 3 weeks after Moon Knight ended?
Yeah.
Moon Knight, the Egyptian god-filled kind of schizophrenic mental case nonsense that was Moon Knight, where it's just kind of, are you really angry with yourself? What's reality? There's
But
all
even
these
a lot of
gods flying
people
around.
but even a lot of people who have DID, they said that was a great depiction of
Exactly.
somebody dealing with that while also kind of dealing with these fantastical elements. They got to the realness of DID. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I think they are definitely doing a good job of capturing the realness in this kind of crazy world, and this Miss Marvel definitely embodies that. This teenage girl just going through life, taking her driver's test, trying to go to a convention with her friends while dealing with her overbearing, parents, and then we get magical shit kind of thrown in there.
100%. 100%. It is. You haven't really had a coming of age story in the MCU yet.
No.
You've had younger heroes, even Spider-Man, but you haven't had a true coming of age story in the MCU. The biggest praise I can give to this first episode of Miss Marvel is that it didn't feel at all like an MCU thing,
No.
tonally and story-wise. It just felt like a unique coming of age story,
And
which
like
is
I grew
exactly
up
what this first
yeah.
season of Miss Marvel is going to be. You're not going to have world-altering things happening in Miss Marvel season 1. You're not doing. They're going to leave that. This is going to be Kamala growing into this new power, becoming more sure of herself. Then that leads into the Marvels movie with Carol Danvers and Monica Rambeau in there as
Yeah,
well.
and it's as a girl myself, it harkens back to a girl in this world. Like I had posters of NSYNC and Dawson's Creek on my wall. If I grew up in this world, I would have posters of, Captain America and, the Hulk and things on my wall. So, but also, we did kind of have a discussion outside of this show, just kind of like how would she be aware of a lot of the things that happen?
Jeannine,
you know?
this has been a problem I've had. And look, when it comes to the MCU, to have a problem with it doesn't mean you're not going to get into it. Doesn't mean you're not going to watch them. Doesn't mean you're not
No,
going
it
to
doesn't mean
enjoy
you're
what
gonna
they're
hate
putting
on
out
it. It's
at
literally
all.
just, you can have a criticism about things you like and ask these kinds of ridiculous questions.
But this is what this is. This is just a question of why and how.
Yeah.
And since Endgame, I've just really, really questioned how the hell the general public know exactly what
This much
happened
about it.
in the fight against
So
Thanos.
she did mention listening to Ant-Man's podcast. So Scott Lang presumably has a podcast where he talked a lot about, because he was there. So he could speak to a lot of those things. But like characters like the Guardians of the Galaxy showing up at the con, like I don't think people knew enough or saw them enough to kind of formulate who they were and things about them.
But
I
I'm
don't even
talking
think
about,
she has this huge fandom for Captain Marvel, but I don't think Captain Marvel was around enough for people to kind of get a sense of who she was as a superhero. So,
right?
I don't.
Like,
It's,
doesn't Kamala in some sort of narration in this episode say something along the lines of, I had to do all this research to find out what Carol did, in Captain Marvel, the movie, back in the
yeah,
90s, as it were.
yeah. So I guess maybe there's documentation of that somewhere,
I
but it's just,
guess.
I
I
guess we
guess
just kind of have to, we're obviously talking about superheroes and things that don't exist. So, at a certain point, you kind of just have to suspend disbelief, but also your logical mind a little bit is going to rationalize these fantastical things as we all do. So, those questions are going to come up in your mind. Like, if you are good at telling your story, you're going to kind of maybe think of every kind of little insight of those things, but then it's also nitpicking. So, it doesn't take away the
I
fact that
am
I enjoyed this
perfect.
show.
No, and I am perfectly happy to accept Scott Lang has a podcast where he just has
Tells
told the
everything.
public
Everything.
the information
Yeah.
that is required. I'm also perfectly happy to keep watching all the MCU stuff and to have that question still be in my mind of how the hell does everybody know exactly what's going on? Because I remember in the Eternals, Kit Harington in the Eternals somehow knows all about Thanos and that sort of stuff, and that's kind of the one little thing we get in the
Again,
Eternals that
connection. Yeah.
connects it through. Reminds us that the Eternals is actually an MCU movie. And y'all can shut up with your Eternals hate as well, because I was a big fan of the Eternals. But like, does Kit Harington in the Eternals also listen to Scott Lang's podcast? How long's Scott Lang been doing this
Yeah. I've been doing
podcast?
this podcast. Yeah.
Does literally the entire world's population listen to
Listen
Scott
to
Lang's
Scott Lang's
podcast?
podcast. Yeah.
How
I
does
don't know.
everybody know? How does everybody
Yeah.
know?
So, yeah, I mean, I liked seeing this kind of superhero world through the guise of a girl kind of growing up in this time and being able to see the fandom in that. And
The
also just the
convention
kind of
was
cool,
fun.
yes, also kind of the cool illustration of her imagination of things. Just, her and her best friend, which I love a good guy girl friendship, of course.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. That
um,
won't be a friendship for much longer, Jeannine.
I
Let me
know
tell you.
he seems like he's got some feelings.
There's a
Um,
romantic interest there. Mark
yes.
my words.
Yes. But like, yeah, they're riding their bikes down the street and talking about what's the unique thing we can add to your Captain Marvel costume, and all of their ideas are kind of just being illustrated as graffiti on the walls as they're riding their
Yeah,
bikes through the city. And I'm like, that is such a cool thing. And, that kind of hand drawn, imaginative kind of thought process. I loved them kind of incorporating stuff like that. So
it's
yeah,
really
I'm excited
fun.
to learn more about this character, because this is definitely not a character I knew a lot about.
No,
I'm
exactly the
excited.
same.
Yeah, I'm excited for the representation. I'm excited that people are excited about it. And yeah, I'm excited for episode 2. So yeah.
Very, very excited for episode 2. Very, very excited for the rest of Miss Marvel and to see where she just goes. I just think she's gonna completely blow up in popularity. I really do.
Yeah.
Or suddenly she's just
Leading up to this
become,
big movie. So
even Iman Velani, I think that's how you pronounce the name correctly. She's just going to absolutely explode.
yeah.
In a very, very short space of time, I think.
Yeah. And especially being in this movie, the Marvels movie, like it's gonna be great. So yeah. Yay, Miss Marvel.
It's absolutely yay, Miss Marvel. Such a fun, poppy, again, just a completely different tonal take on the MCU. And like I said, that's what I've really liked about the shows in particular, is that they're all very, very unique feeling. They're all very, very their own.
Yeah.
Which is again, I suppose that's been an issue with that some people have had with the movies over the years, hasn't it? It's been like, oh, it's just an MCU movie. You know how this is going to go. And
Yeah, but it's like,
story-wise, you kind of, I suppose you do know how it's going to go. No, but now they are bolder to do, and they have been with the movies for a good few years now, really. A good few years before Endgame, we should say. They have gone a little bit more out there tonally, and certainly now after Endgame, they are just every project seems to have a unique tone, if not a unique story, which granted, they are still not particularly unique stories.
Yeah.
But they are about unique characters and have unique tone, which makes the world a difference, which ultimately is enough for me to really feel freshened every time I watch
definitely.
something from the MCU. I don't need the
That's not part
stories
of
to
the
be too
bigger picture
different.
just yet. Yeah,
No.
it's something that's kind of a side thing happening that'll eventually kind of work into the bigger picture. But I
Yeah.
like seeing these kind of side quests almost,
Yeah.
these smaller stories. So yeah,
100%.
yes.
100%.
Wow.
Applause for Miss Marvel.
Yes.
Applause for Miss Marvel
Yes.
entirely.
Well, briefly, I do want to discuss a new Morgan movie.
Well, yes, I mean, you make that sound more exciting than it is, because a new Morgan movie sounds like
Is anything.
well, it sounds like a Morgan movie. You know,
No,
when
not a movie
when we're
that
on the
Morgan
main
likes.
show
Yeah,
or
no.
something like that. Something can be a Morgan movie where when
Yes.
it just plays to my tendencies.
No, so no, it's not a Morgan movie in that sense. It's a movie that is new to Morgan.
Yes.
Is what I was implying. So, kind of the impetus, the idea for this episode and our discussion about monster movies came out of the release of Jurassic World Dominion.
Yes, which we had a
Uh,
nice big spoiler-filled live discussion of yesterday as of the release of this episode.
Yes. And Morgan had kind of avoided the Jurassic World bunch of movies.
Yes, I'm a big fan of the Jurassic Park movies.
Yes.
Let not that be forgotten.
No. But yeah, now that we are doing this show where we do actually talk about kind of topical things,
I have to watch things.
Morgan has to watch things. So, in anticipation for Dominion, we did actually do a fun live watch along of Jurassic World, Morgan's first time watch. So, go and check that out if you'd like. And on his own, he decided to watch Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Yes.
So, we're here to get his thoughts on Fallen Kingdom.
Well, I'm not going to take too much of our time because, you know, some people listening to this, Jeannine, may have watched our live discussion on Jurassic World Dominion and probably got some thoughts of mine generally about the Jurassic World movies from that full discussion there. But Fallen Kingdom tries commendably to make some bold choices. It brings up interesting concepts. I think the concepts of, you know, the cloning, the genetics aspect, transferring onto to maybe people as well now. Ooh, people are clones now.
Yeah.
Is very, very interesting. I mean, we'd never heard of James Cromwell.
No, and that is
being a thing before.
But even the cloning is what they end up ultimately using as the excuse as to why him and Hammond parted ways.
Yeah.
Because he was going very much deeper into kind of messing with the cloning aspect, which is a more dangerous thing, I guess Hammond thought. And so
yeah, it seems to be. I think I don't think Fallen Kingdom was a particularly great movie. I think it had interesting, like I said, I think it had interesting ideas.
Yeah.
That didn't necessarily, whether they didn't get explored to the extent I would have liked them to, or whether they were explored but just not
fleshed out
well.
very well.
It's kind of tough to say because all of a sudden you're thrown into just dinosaurs running around a mansion in Northern California, and it's just like,
I mean, that whole end
what's
sequence,
going on here?
I loved the opening. The opening had a really great scary movie sensibility when they're going back to the park wreckage at night. It's raining to get that piece of the Indominus Rex bone. And,
Stupid name
you
of a
know,
dinosaur.
yes. And, you get the lightning flashes and the T-Rex is just there all of a
Yes.
sudden and
Yes.
he's trying to run and he's getting the helicopter. Also, who constructed this park that thought it was a good idea to have the freaking Mosasaurus water pen just open up to the open ocean? Like, yep.
Yep,
Like,
it's a very stupid idea as well. There is stupidity.
but even
There
in
is
the attack in the room felt very kind of fun horror movie, but it's like also a bit of Jaws the Revenge. Like, I'm going after this random. I'm free. I'm outside of this house on the roof in the moonlight. Great shot. But I'm outside of this house. I could just leave. But
yeah.
no, I'm gonna go out of my way to stalk this little girl. Like,
Yeah.
so things like
There's
that were just kind of ridiculous. And you're very obvious villains, and you're casting actors who are very obviously villainous. So right off the bat that Timothy Spall is your villain. Right, or Rafe Spall is your villain.
it'd
Right
be
off the
interesting
bat.
if it was Timothy Spall though,
I
as well,
mean,
to be fair.
he has his father's face, so it's obvious. You're never not going to be a good guy, Rafe Spall. I'm sorry, you can never play a good guy. You have Ted Levine, like,
Yeah.
oh,
Come on.
shocker when he turns out to be terrible.
Yes, I completely agree with you in that sense. Fallen Kingdom it shoots itself in the foot by being it has things in there that are too interesting for the movie it actually is.
Yeah.
It follows on from Jurassic World well in the sense that it's a big spectacle action movie. But it tries to do things in a similarly clever way to what Jurassic Park actually did in terms of its commentary on things. I really like the idea of a black market auction for dinosaurs.
But
I find it fascinating.
Those dinosaurs were going for really cheap for dinosaurs. Like a couple million dollars.
They were a couple million. It's a dinosaur, It's literally a dinosaur. There's not many of them. Cheap dinosaurs, knockoff dinosaurs, bargain bin dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Nobody wants the what was I forget the name now. I'm not just going to try and come up with a name for a dinosaur, because when you do try and come up with a name for a dinosaur, Jeannine, you end up naming dinosaurs that they've newly created in these Jurassic World movies, and they sound stupid. They sound like Transformers characters. I hate the new names for the dinosaurs, especially this new one in Dominion, and that I would have talked about on the live discussion yesterday, 100%. It might as well have been called the Megatronosaurus. How stupidly named it was.
But okay, so overall, it was shot nice. I think it looked very nice, but yeah, just some story elements were just weird, and weird decisions were made. You just waste Jeff Goldblum as some bookends, and
you do. I did not see the point in Goldblum being in the movie. It especially considering I remember him being pretty heavily in the marketing for the movie.
Yes, which the marketing was all he was in it. Like, he basically saw his performance in the trailers.
It was, exactly. And that's a shame. I mean, it's kind of made up for in Dominion, that aspect of Goldblum being there.
Yes.
But no, Fallen King, it had things in there that were genuinely interesting, and I felt were very, very clever concepts, but it didn't explore them properly, or it just resorted to, we've got to have dinosaurs attack things. You actually don't have to have dinosaurs attack that many things for it to be an interesting movie about dinosaurs.
Yeah.
The ideas in there are what makes it interesting. What makes Jurassic Park interesting all those years ago was, yes, the fact that it was a phenomenally made movie full of wonder and amazement, technological advancement, but also that it was cleverly commenting on playing God.
Yeah.
Whereas this one was trying to cleverly comment on black market dealings and, you know,
Dinosaurs falling into the wrong hands and
exactly
weaponizing, because I think this series has definitely been a lot about weaponizing dinosaurs.
weaponizing, exactly. But it just brings them up and doesn't finish them.
Yeah.
And it needs to finish them. And Dominion doesn't even really finish those concepts either.
No.
It does some of them, but Fallen, yeah, wasn't my favourite, admittedly. Wasn't my favourite. More interesting than Jurassic World, but Jurassic World knew what it was more,
Yeah.
I think. So
And it still had
I
I
commend
think
that for that.
it still had a stronger through line, I think, to the original, just the fact that, like, it's a park. Like, it's what would happen if the park actually opened. So it's kind of that
Exactly.
insight. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah,
Okay.
I think that's probably all I have to say. But there is one more thing that we do want to bring up and
Something
discuss
very
a little bit.
monstrous as well.
Very monstrous before our main discussion on monster movies themselves.
Yes.
And that is, of course, the 4th season of Stranger Things, or we should say the 4th season, Volume 1.
One. Yes, part one. So yeah, I have loved Stranger Things. I've loved the nostalgia in it. I've loved kind of the concept. It's very much every season monster of the week in a whole season type situation. I've loved the characters. And so yeah, season 4 definitely, went bigger and bolder and worked with these aging characters very well, in
You
dealing
say
with.
aging characters to make them sound like they're in the mid-80s,
I
when it's
mean,
actually just
just
like 20-year-olds.
yes,
But
just puberty kind of, because they were like 12 and 13 when this show started, and now
exactly.
they're like literally in their 20s, and so they have to still kind of be, um, you know.
This has been the unfortunate issue with Stranger Things season 4, is that it's obviously come 4 years after Stranger
Yeah,
Things
so it's
season 3.
a bit jarring, but they made it work. Like, you felt like, okay, yeah, these kids are older now. They're having different feelings. They're dealing with more things. They're a little more angsty, and but the relationships still feel the same. They still feel strong, and the
Yeah.
chemistry is still great. And yeah, I like this Vecna villain.
Oh,
I like the
absolutely. I mean,
yeah
100%. Look, I I've never been a huge Stranger Things fan, to be honest. I've always enjoyed the show, but I know some people like absolutely live for it. They love it to death. And it's probably got something to do with the fact with the 80s situation. It probably does. And that's obviously not, I like other things that are nostalgic for the 80s, but I don't know. Something within me when Stranger Things first came out felt it was a little bit beat you over the head with it. It
okay.
was just like, we're set in 1983. I promise you, we're set in 1983. Can you tell? We're set in
Yeah,
1983? It's like, yes, I can tell. You don't have to keep
beat me over the
smacking
head
me in
with
the
it.
face
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. No, I get that.
Um, but I do enjoy Stranger Things, and I really, really did enjoy this season. And the season's not actually over yet, because
No.
we're getting this two episode part 2, which is presumably, I mean, it kind of has to be. Spoilers ahead for this next 10, 15 minutes or so while we talk about Stranger
Yeah.
Things. But presumably it's going to be like a big final battle and rescue and coming together, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very much because we have what, like, 4 different stories happening. Our characters are split into like 4 different groups.
Yes,
So
which I
I'm just
really did
very
like
excited.
again
Yes,
in
because
this.
like you're getting these mixes of different characters and the chemistry between them, and I think that's all really fun. And then it's just this kind of nervous anticipation of like, oh, okay, when is everyone going to get together? And
Yeah.
also it's like kind of I like older things just reminding us about um the ease of cell phones, just kind of, there's no suspense, and to kind of relive that stress and suspense of, you can't just make a easy phone call of somebody where they are in a moment and tell them something. So there's going to be misunderstandings and miscommunications and missed opportunities to give information that just add to the suspense of things and
Yeah.
make things more difficult. So we definitely have a lot of that happening with everyone kind of separated. So I'm just like nervously anticipating everybody kind of coming together.
Yeah. I really thought it was a good way of dealing with this season, though. I mean, you had to story-wise, but having these separate groups of people go on their kind of separate individual stories
Yeah.
almost felt fresh to me in terms of Stranger Things, because if it was just going to be another season of, oh, something else is coming to Hawkins and everybody gets involved
And
and
Will
people
gets
have
possessed
problems
again.
and 11 goes a little bit mental again and
Yeah, and I
oh
like the through
god,
line of, well, this would have been easier to deal with because we had this little girl, 11, and she had superpowers, so she always just solved all our problems. So
right?
it's like, no, we actually have to do a little bit more now because 11 doesn't have her powers if she's not here. So I
So
like
all,
that they're just like rolling up their sleeves. Okay, we got to do the tough
yes.
work because we don't have 11 to bail us out again. So
What I will say, story wise, and this is unusual for me to focus on the story, but oh my god, did I think this season of Stranger Things, certainly so far, and I can't see it getting ridiculously terrible in this second part to where this statement wouldn't also be true. The story was so well rounded,
mhm.
so well told, so
Yeah.
perfectly paced together and put together, given the fact you've got these different groups of people going on their different journeys in this thing. All the stuff when 11 goes back to the facility, as it were,
Yes.
to do all this
And we see
memory.
Papa still alive
Matthew
and
Modine's back with his
yeah. Mhm.
ridiculous hair. I mean, it is ridiculous hair.
We get these flashbacks to this orderly character. Um
Yes, it's
and the twists revealed with that I think are really well done. I feel like they are having like little kind of character things happening, but and they're giving you just enough little nuggets here and there to remind you that this is something that's going to come up later, but it's not important right now. So we get kind of these teases about Will, potentially his orientation and maybe feelings he's having towards Mike, maybe. But they kind of just leave that kind of brewing and will throw things here and there to kind of remind you, but it doesn't pull focus away from the main story. We have Nancy and what's Will's brother's name? What's his name?
Will's
Jonathan.
brother. Oh yeah, no, it is
Jonathan.
Will's brother.
Um,
I forget who's related to
yeah.
who in Stranger Things, to be honest.
We have Nancy and Jonathan and kind of underlying like what's going to happen with their relationship. They're kind of on different paths. So they have their kind of character story happening, but we don't focus too much on that. But it's just enough in there to kind of give you some character stuff that you know we're going to probably settle with by the end, but it doesn't pull away from the main story. So I like that we're still getting little character moments just peppered in there, but
Yeah,
it's not like they're not taking a whole big chunk of time to build that up because you know
no,
they'll give you more later when you know when the time is right. But
I mean
we're dealing with bigger things, so we're kind of like the characters. Like we want to know what's going on with Nancy and Jonathan, but we can't deal with that right now. We have monsters to deal with, you know.
kind of, yeah, and it's strange to me because I'm not focused on those things. I am, for some reason,
Fully,
Stranger Things does have this ability with me to actually get me mostly invested in the
yeah.
story it's telling rather than anything
These character
else.
things. Well, I'm a character person. I love those little kind of interconnected character moments. I'm probably someone who loves this series and these characters more than you do. So
Yeah,
I kind of want to see their you know see their them in a good place and see things work out with them, and I care about their well being. So
I'm
I'm
there for a
definitely
trippy
looking.
story.
Yeah, and you're there for monsters and things like that. I'm just looking at all the you know intricate things because I want to see these characters you know end up in good places. So I'm looking at those little things that they're kind of peppering in between the bigger story.
I just think how this story came together in that seventh episode, that longer seventh
Yeah.
episode, how everything fit so well together. 11's memories going back in this tank thing, I found fascinating. I can't remember finding 11 as interesting as I did in this season. I think because she's actually dealing with her past now rather than just being unsure of everything and
Yeah.
I can do all these things, but I don't really know who I am. Like, she's actually figuring out where she's come from, what's, kind of
these blank spots in her memories.
blank
And,
spots, what has happened to make her who she is now,
Yeah.
which I found really interesting. Like you said, the link with, I suppose, who the actual monster of this series is and
Yeah, her
was
connection.
is
Yeah.
fascinating. It's
Yes.
fascinating and really well put together.
This orderly who she befriends, who acts like he understands her better than anyone else.
Who is
She
played
can
by the
relate to,
guy
befriends
that
her.
played Grindelwald in the
Grindelwald.
actual Harry
Yeah.
Potter movies, not the
Yes.
Fantastic Beasts one. It's not Johnny Depp or Mads Mikkelsen, I can promise you that.
No.
It's the dude who played the little flashback scenes of
Of it
Grindelwald
jumping out a window. Yeah.
in the Deathly Hallows.
Yeah.
That guy.
So yeah, I like it connects everything. It connects every monster we've seen to this one monster. It connects him to 11 and why the Upside Down is kind of so like obsessed with her and attached to her, and how
Yeah.
like she was able to create it and all of these things.
Because these are questions that have always been
Out there.
Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Have never
Like,
been
why
answered.
is this happening? Yeah. So it definitely ties all of that up with a nice bow. So we're just kind of seeing where it lands at the end. But
Yeah, you
I
find
like getting to see that connection.
absolutely. You feel like you finally have reasons of why.
Yeah.
And you feel like, the Upside Down doesn't just exist. There's actually a story behind it now.
And history behind it.
And a history behind it. And almost a lore behind it.
Yes, because then we get that second twist with Vecna actually being this young child that we saw, who was the son of Robert Englund's character, who was kind of said to be this guy who killed his family in these brutal ways, and he's in like this insane asylum.
Oh my God, how great is it that Robert Englund comes in for one terrifying scene in a prison?
Yes.
And is traumatized by his own dreams when it's Robert Englund.
Yes, and the fact
entire career, Jeannine, traumatizing people's dreams.
I think, they're being very clever. The fact that, like, when we learn at the fact that when Vecna kind of has you in his upside down imprisonment, music is something that will guide you. You'll open up your mind and guide you out of there and give you an opening out. Yes, and what was Robert Englund's song that he said was calling to him?
Oh God, I forget now.
Dream a little dream.
It was. Yes, it was.
So very clever. Very clever.
I think even at one point Dustin makes a Nightmare on Elm Street joke in this series as well, which I just
it
find
been, at that time
great.
It would have been out. So yes,
applause.
Yeah, and I think you actually do see like a Freddy like cardboard cutout thing in the video store as well.
A lot of Freddy stuff, a lot of dream stuff. But I suppose there is. It is kind of escaping your own thoughts. This one, isn't it? It's not just we're trapped by a monster in the Upside Down. Oh dear, we've been kidnapped, and why?
But this one actually is pulling at your fears and your regrets, and
it's very, very personal. It's a very, very personal demon. Yeah. So I think I like that about Vecna. I think that it's certainly felt, and maybe this is recency bias, sure. And granted the fact that it's been so long since I watched the rest of Stranger Things. But I definitely feel like Vecna's the strongest villain or strongest monster of this series story-wise. Because you had the Demogorgon was just a big bad monster. The Mind Flayer was just a bigger, badder monster. But what are their motives? What are their reasons? Vecna has reason and motive.
Yes, and it's
You never
preying
know
at your
what the
most
others
and it's
are.
preying at your most personal, vulnerable moments and
And
memories and
as we
regrets and
find,
yeah,
exactly, as we find, Vecna himself was a human.
yeah,
You know, is has human traits, has that personality that we have actually seen in previous episodes before that
yeah.
reveal is revealed.
So we saw him be kind and human and very
Exactly.
encouraging and sweet to 11, only for it to kind of build into this very terrible thing. So yeah, I really am excited to see how this goes. I will say I think I'm in agreement with a lot of people that Netflix, you gotta get on board with these other streaming services. Like, the binge format is kinda maybe killing you a little bit. Like,
Mm,
while it would've been like, "Ah, I can't wait till next week," that anticipation would have definitely done great numbers for your streaming service.
100%.
Because, like,
Even if
we are
you're
doing
doing,
it with Disney Plus.
even if you want to do two and two or something like
Yeah.
that.
Like, Amazon is doing, the 1 show a week type situation.
I think
Disney
Amazon does it
Plus is
weird, doesn't
doing
they? Do Amazon not like do three on
they
the
do, like,
first and
3.
then one, one,
They'll
one, one,
do
one?
2 or 3 on the first because, yeah, I think, like, Miss Maisel did, like, the first 2
Mm.
episodes, and then it was week to week to week. With The Boys, I think they released the first 3, and now it's week to week to week. So, like, even something like that, but you're definitely gonna build up more anticipation, you're definitely gonna get people excited, you're definitely gonna get more people who aren't just gonna, like, "I'm gonna subscribe to Netflix for this season of Stranger Things and then cancel it." Like, you're gonna get
Yeah,
people kind of at least holding their subscription for a couple
yeah.
weeks and then maybe finding other things. So yeah, Netflix, maybe look at your plan and figure some things out.
I think the binge model worked when
You were the only one.
you were the daddy of streaming services, and
Yeah.
I don't think you are anymore.
No, there's a ton
I,
now.
I
So
do not think you are the big dog of streaming services anymore. I think you're actually now one of the weaker ones,
yeah, people I see a lot of Netflix complaints. So
um, which is unfortunate. But
yeah.
like you
But
say,
I mean,
I am a fan of watching the Disney Plus shows week by week. It feels like they are a real event because
yeah.
the discussion surrounds them has lasted for a couple of months,
Yeah.
rather than like even us talking about Stranger Things this week as opposed to last week feels late
Yeah, it does.
because it all came out 2 weeks ago.
One big kind of thing, yeah. So, just to kind of close out our discussion, I do really love Eddie. He's a great new character. I've seen
Yeah.
clips of him like shredding his guitar in the Upside Down, so I'm like hyped for that. But
Okay.
Morgan,
Yes.
what would be your get out of Vecna's Upside Down
Oh.
grasp song?
Oh. Not the Kate Bush Run Up the Hill song.
No.
Not the Kate Bush Run Up the Hill song, which is enjoying
It
significant
is.
boosts in popularity, and we have to
Yeah.
appreciate it for that. And also, let me just say, why are you hating on people who are discovering this song just from this show? Like, how else are other
'Cause,
people
yeah, I
supposed to
never heard this
discover
song.
songs? Oh, I mean, I
I
have heard this song. I am
I
familiar
never
with
heard
this
it, but
song.
I love it. So,
But my point is, like, how do new people discover new music if they don't see it in something, or they can't? They weren't
hear it in something,
there.
yeah.
They
Yeah.
weren't there, so they're not gonna
Yeah.
know, are they? So they have to see it in something or hear it
Yeah.
somewhere else, and then someone goes, "What? You haven't heard this
Heard that song? Well, I'm
before?"
hearing it now and I'm enjoying it now, so leave me the hell alone.
Exactly. So I don't
So,
like people that are being like that about the song. Um, Before I try and answer the question of what my Vecna song would be, I did just also want to mention I really like all the prison stuff with Hopper as well. It
yes,
was so
yes, and
nasty and
Joyce trying to get
brutal
back
and
to him
grim.
and yeah.
It felt so it felt like a totally different show to the rest of it.
Yes, and I love, like, the grown-ups team up kind of,
Right.
in juxtaposition to the kids type team up. Because like, even we had that the last season when they're in, like, the underground Russian, type place, and so then they kind of
Yeah.
have to get
Yeah.
into uniforms and team up, and so I like the grown-ups doing grown-up team ups, in very much more violent conditions, while the kids still are dealing with some crazy shit, but it's like, that side by side of even the grown-ups are getting in there with their things to do. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I did. I really liked all the liked in a brutal sense all the
and Jock and
hopper
Hagar.
prison stuff, and Jack and Hagar in there being all faceless
Russian,
mannish
yeah,
about the
yeah,
situation. Yes, it was
yeah.
nice. I can't actually ever remember seeing him in anything
And
else.
anything else, like it literally was like I was like, why do I know this guy? Like, why do I know his face? Like, I had to look him up because I knew him from something and his voice and the way he was speaking, and I'm like, wait, what do I know him from? Like,
It
oh
is.
my gosh, it's Jaga Daga.
He's using the exact same cadence he does as Jack and
Yeah,
Hagar as well.
even with
So
a Russian accent. Yeah,
it's very much the
I needed a
American has
minute.
given me a name. I will come. I will comply.
Yeah.
A girl needs a face, or any such things that Jack and Hagar would say to Arya.
Yeah.
Everything's always a man, a girl, a sword, other things, death.
Yeah.
The god. What do we say to the god of death? No, that's not what we say to the god of death. That's Syrio Farrell. God, you can tell it's been a while.
I know, it's been a minute.
What do we say to the
been a
god of death? How dare I confuse Arya
It's okay,
Stark's
Morgan. It's okay.
mentors, Jeannine?
You caught yourself. It's fine.
I did. What would be my Vecna song before we get into actually talking about monster movies? I think we've found a time that this show actually goes on for, and it might be that close to a couple of hours, you know.
Yeah.
Because it might just be naturally that. And I think that's fine,
see.
Jeannine.
We'll see.
I think that's fine. What would my Vecna song be? I think it needs to be something that's upbeat, because a lot of my favourite songs are quite
They're very mellow,
relaxed and mellow.
I know what you're saying.
What would my song be, Jeannine?
Would it be the St. Elmo's Fire song?
No, it wouldn't be the St. Elmo's Fire. It'd be a good one. It's definitely
Me and Morgan have
enough.
several arguments about how he thinks that song is great, and I can't stand
it. I do. I actually think a great song, I actually really like the song as well, would be Message in a Bottle by The Police.
That's a good one. Are you
because
like
it's appropriate as well. It's like, please help me. And that song is basically just entirely, I need help. I'm alone here. Please help me.
Yes,
I'm
mine
sending
is kind
out
of
an
appropriate.
SOS. It works.
Mine is kind of appropriate as well. I mean, if you're watching the music video, "Take on Me."
Yes,
yes.
yes.
I'm caught in a world, in a different world that's similar to your own. If I was picking a more modern song, though, I would probably pick "There Goes My Hero" by Foo Fighters. That would.
No, I don't want to. I mean, that would also, yes, I quite like that song myself as well. But I think it has to be something of that
era
time.
So yeah,
doesn't it?
I mean, if we were picking a mellow song, if mellow songs would work, I would pick probably "Drive." But
I don't know. I don't think mellow songs work.
No, so yeah.
Way, do they?
Take on Me would definitely be the one. Then
I will go with
if I'm
Message
going
in a Bottle.
Era appropriate and upbeat.
I will go with Message in a Bottle. I like it. I like our two songs there, Jeannine.
Yes.
Our two Vecna songs. But I think that does it for what we have to discuss in What's Up. We need to get into our main discussion of the week, Jeannine. It's monster movies. We have just talked about Stranger Things. Yes, it's monster-filled time. Jurassic World Dominion's out. Big dinosaur situations. Dinosaurs are monsters, Jeannine. I wonder if we'll be talking about any dinosaurs in our discussion now. How is this going to work?
I don't know. Do we just want to say our three and then just kind of interminglingly discuss, or do you want to go one at a time?
I think we should go one at a time, because basically what we've done is we've picked each 3 favorite monster movies. Now, we haven't given each other any more specificity than 3 favorite monster movies. So this has been interpreted in any such way.
Yeah, so whatever you constitute as a monster movie is your interpretation. I tried not to pick things that were like inherently specific or big kind of blockbustery things. I mean, maybe one of them is a little bit, but
well, it's tough to say what you will constitute mine as. I think I have I think all three of mine are very are popular movies,
Okay. All right. Well,
but
you go first.
popular in very different ways, I would say.
Okay.
If you want me to go first, I will go first. I think rather boringly, Jeannine, I would like to talk about King Kong.
Okay.
Because King Kong, I still think, is actually the single best monster movie of all time. And I'm talking 1933's King
Yes.
Kong. Not just because to watch it now is still it's almost a lesson in how to make a spectacle adventure movie still.
Yeah.
With
I mean, just
horror
look at how many
elements.
times. Just look how many times it's been remade as well.
Exactly.
That story holds up.
It's such a scene movie as well.
Yeah.
Like
Iconic.
I tend to always say the oldest movie that most people have seen is The Wizard of Oz. But if it's not The Wizard of Oz, it's probably King Kong.
And if you haven't seen it, you know the scenes. You know
You
on the
do.
building, swatting away the planes with the girl in his hand, and all the you
You
know
do.
those elements.
Everybody knows King Kong. Everybody who has seen King Kong loves King Kong. There is not a person alive who watches King Kong 1933 and goes, that was a bad movie.
Yeah.
You just can't do it. So not only is it phenomenally timeless in that sense, but it's so significant in movie making of the early 30s. Because there's big movies pre-King Kong, and there's big movies post-King Kong. Because I am talking about special effects and sound that King Kong did better than anything else that came before it. Anything else.
Yeah.
Special effects, the stop motion effects are great. I am a big stop motion monster person. This is what I love about monster movies generally. You give me stop motion, I am entirely in. I prefer stop motion monsters to CG monsters. I prefer stop motion
it's a
monsters.
very special thing.
I prefer stop motion monsters to man in a suit monsters as well.
Okay.
I do. Stop motion is the absolute perfect way of doing monsters in movies, I think. And I'll always think that. Even, your practical, if you're talking about something like An American Werewolf in London or something like that, the phenomenal practical effects of that particular monster. But I'd rather see a big stop motion thing.
But we even got stop motion in things like RoboCop and the Terminator. So
Exactly. The Terminator does have stop motion in it. I love it.
Yeah.
But King Kong it's an obvious choice. It's an obvious choice, but it's such a trailblazing movie. Not just in monster movies, but in actual movies. You would not have the level of incidental score in a movie that you have now without King Kong. You wouldn't have Jurassic Park without King Kong.
Yeah.
And its dinosaur battles. You wouldn't have Ray Harryhausen without King Kong, because Willis O'Brien is Ray Harryhausen's influence. And Willis O'Brien did the effects for King Kong. It's every major special effects transition through the, you don't get any of it without King Kong.
And you get a bit of your sympathetic monster elements with King Kong
you
as
do.
well. Like
Story-wise, it's phenomenal.
You're taking him out of his home. So of course he's going to be going crazy and doing things, but you're treating him like a monster. But you've created this monster almost, because you're taking him away from, his environment, and you're coming into his home, and So
exactly.
Yeah, you get your sympathetic monster
It's a great story.
Yeah.
And it's such an entertaining movie. The mix of horror and adventure and just wonder. I mean, just imagine seeing King Kong. I would love to go to a huge screen cinema to watch 1933's King Kong, because I think it'd just
really
play so well.
It's a huge spectacle. So,
but it's the perfect spectacle movie. It's the spectacle movie with genuine quality filmmaking, real trail. I want to say trailblaze. I don't want to say trailblazing again, but you know what I mean. trailblazing,
like new innovation in filmmaking.
innovative was the word I was trying to say. Innovative techniques in every sense, and just adventure all around.
Mm-hmm.
And a great Beauty and the Beast kind of story. It's not as romantic as La Belle à la Bête, but
I see what
certainly
I see what you're getting at with the
enjoyable. I adore King Kong. I always have since the first time I watched it, and I watched it for the first time when I was very, very young.
Yeah.
I just need a better Blu-ray version of it because the DVD I currently have is quite a base DVD, so I would like to improve my physical collection of King Kong 1933.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice one. Good one. Good pick. My pick is a remake. This is a movie I didn't actually see in theaters, but it was like, that was kind of in high school. That was kind of how I found out about movies in junior high and high school. When you're not driving yourself places, your friend sees a movie and they just tell you everything about it and gush about how wonderful it is. And then you get excited to watch it and you watch it. And then you're like, okay, see what they were talking about. Mine is The Mummy from 1999.
I mean, look, I can see why you would pick this movie. I can.
Definitely, still working on its special effects.
Not quite as good special effects as King Kong.
No, maybe they should have gone with some stop motion.
75 years before.
But there were some effects that were very goopy and scary. So I like that there was some effort to at least, obviously very different from the original Mummy, but this was kind of a revamp of Universal Monsters. So it had that core. It definitely had that fun adventure vibe of that era of time. Your rugged heroes and your damsels. But I loved that our damsel in this film was not a damsel too much in distress. She was a bit in distress, but she still was like holding her own and a big part of the story and very brilliant and had this very brains and bronze kind of relationship with the male lead. So, Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser, amazing in this movie, their chemistry. But our Mummy, I like that they made our Mummy menacing and scary. I like that we got to see his human story kind of before going into why he's kind of, creeping around and sucking up people's body parts. And the settings were beautiful. It's just such a fun ride. So
you know why The Mummy 99 is a great movie and a great remake? It's because it does it completely differently to what the original Universal Mummy was, because the original Universal Mummy is a
very
sad romance movie.
It
is.
You
it's
still,
Boris
but
Karloff.
You still keep those, just
Boris Karloff plodding around going,
find...
oh, where's my lost love? I think you're the reincarnation of my lost love.
Come with me.
Please come back so we can be together. And that's the movie for all of 70 minutes that the movie goes on for.
Yeah, so you do keep that. So I think we talked a lot about that before with our horror remakes. Like, I think a great way to do a horror remake is definitely keeping that through line, like a big solid plot point from the original, and then adding your own kind of flair and story to it. So that through line is definitely there. We see his love story with Anck-su-namun and them being parted and him being mummified. And then we get into him being released. And now that is his only goal. Like, I need to find the reincarnation of my Anck-su-namun to bring her back. And that's kind of the impetus of why he's kind of wreaking havoc everywhere. So you have that inherent through line from the original film, but you add this great action adventure story around it, some great characters, some, attempts at CGI. You still keep like the horror elements in there for sure.
There is, definitely.
And you get some fun elements. You get a romance, you get an adventure story, you get a horror film. So it has everything. I absolutely love The Mummy. I don't know anybody who doesn't like this movie, or enjoy this movie.
Well, I think it's quite similar to what I was talking about with King Kong, really, is that it's such a perfect adventure movie of its time. It really is. It's flawless in that sense. It's so unbelievably enjoyable. And yes, while the effects themselves may look dated, yes, the Mummy's effects aren't necessarily innovative in the same way that King Kong's effects were.
But,
But that's not the point of it. It is an enjoyable, big spectacle adventure movie with a central monster.
Yeah.
So it is quite similar in that sense, I think. I do like The Mummy. I do like Boris Karloff's The Mummy. I do like Hammer's The Mummy with Christopher Lee. Both, actually, Boris Karloff, 1932, and the Hammer one from 1959 have been talked about on the main show It's a Wonderful Podcast, Jeannine, in episodes.
Ooh.
The Mummy 1999 hasn't, because obviously it's several decades
Yes.
too young.
And I don't know that Deja Vu was a thing on our show at the time that we did The Mummy. So I believe, or we did The Mummy. We actually did The Mummy, I think, on Morgan Hasn't Seen.
The Mummy has been done on Morgan Hasn't Seen.
When it was
yes.
Jeannine Hasn't Seen.
Yes, you are quite right.
Yes.
But The Mummy has also definitely been done as a very, very early episode of the main show.
So that was before our Deja Vu, when we like to, on the main show.
Was.
When our original classic film does have a modern remake, we'll do a segment called Deja Vu. We'll actually watch the modern remake, and I believe that episode came out before we were doing that. So
long
we missed our chance, but we can talk about it here.
We can. And it is a great a great movie. I know so many people have such affection for it.
Yes.
I think I just don't think it was one that I grew up with, which is why I kind of a heart isn't there for me that it is for a lot of other people and a lot of people that we know. But I completely understand why it's there.
Yes. Love it.
Like I said, it's a perfect example of an adventure movie of its time, with its horror elements in there that you have to have in a mummy movie. And ultimately you have to have, do you have to have it in a monster movie? Because I think one of the monster movies I'm going to bring up later isn't at all a horror movie. So maybe it's quite interesting in that sense. Jeannine, would you like me to talk about a second monster movie?
Yes, please do.
So I don't know how you feel about this one, but I would like to bring up one of my favourite, again, it's an adventure movie, but one of my favourite movies with monsters in it.
Okay.
Which is Jason and the Argonauts from 1963.
I think that's fair.
Because I said, when I was just talking about King Kong, how much I love stop motion monsters.
Yes.
And basically Jason and the Argonauts is one stop motion monster after the other.
Another, yeah.
Structurally, it's so good. It's obviously the Greek myth of Jason and the Golden Fleece. It is, again, a perfect adventure movie. I think it's a movie you can put on at any time. It doesn't matter how many times you watch Jason and the Argonauts. It's endlessly enjoyable. And the special effects are what stand out about it. Yeah. And I think that's important in monster movies, to be honest with you. I think in this genre, more than near enough any other genre, special effects are so important. Like even in just horror movies, to call the genre of horror one genre. Yeah, you don't need special effects as much as you do in a monster movie.
No, because you're trying to sell this. You're trying to sell this thing, whether it be for scare purposes or just to get a scale of something. Yeah, you really need to sell that. So it definitely needs to be, look really good.
It does. And it's strange to me that actually my three that I'm going to bring up here, none of them are horror movies, unless you count unless you count King Kong as a little bit of a horror movie.
I mean, mine are kind
of. But I don't. It's an adventure movie, and Jason and the Argonauts is absolutely a pure, fantastical adventure movie. Yeah. Mythological monsters.
Well, if I had known, I would have picked Hercules. Disney's Hercules.
You could have done. You could have done.
I mean, it's got the Titans in there. It's my favorite Disney movie. But
you could have done. You could have picked Clash of the Titans as well. Yeah. You could have gone Harryhausen's Clash of the Titans.
Medusa's a great monster.
From the 80s, or you could have gone the remake from 2010. Which I actually have a guilty pleasure for. I quite like that remake. I don't know why. I don't think it's What was that term your brother uses, Jeannine, for movies with a lot of CGI?
A CGI fuckfest.
Yes, the remake of Clash of the Titans is exactly that.
He coined that term with another monster movie, I, Frankenstein. He saw that trailer, and
I, Frankenstein.
that was the first time I heard him use that term.
Oh dear. Okay, well,
Yeah.
but no, Jason and the Argonauts, legendary special effects. I think it's Harryhausen's best work, to be honest with you, and it comes kind of in the middle of his peak of career. You know, it's not at the end. It's not kind of something that has developed. There's developing up to Jason and the Argonauts. Then it kind of just stays there for a little bit through a couple of Sinbad movies, and we're okay.
Yeah.
But Jason and the Argonauts is, I think, just the peak of Harryhausen movies. The Children of the Hydra's Teeth, the skeleton fight, obviously, is just
skeleton fight is
phenomenal.
iconic. Yeah, that's The Mummy actually was inspired by that when they did this. I believe I remember seeing something that they were inspired by that when there's a scene of Rick like beating up a bunch of like CGI mummy skeletons.
Yeah.
But
I think what I love so much about stop motion, and Harryhausen in particular, because I think Harryhausen's someone that I have read up on quite a lot. And, you know, I remember going to the London Film Museum's huge exhibit on Harryhausen. I saw the little model.
I remember you telling me about that. Yeah.
I saw the little model they used of the Empire State Building for King Kong. And it's tiny. It's only like a foot tall. But obviously the way they filmed it is
and it looks epic. It looks massive. Yeah.
And the little model they used for Talos in Jason and the Argonauts, which, you know, Talos in Jason and the Argonauts is a gigantic bronze statue that towers, and I mean towers above mountains. Certainly towers above, you know, Jason and his men in the movie, creaking around like a big metal husk of a thing, and it's the first monster you see in the movie, but that's only like 6 inches tall. It's tiny. It's absolutely tiny.
That's so funny because you're like seeing the scale of it, and you're thinking it's this massive thing, and
but
that's so funny.
I just think the dedication that goes into stop motion, I think it's there for all to see.
Yeah.
As opposed to CG, which takes a lot of work and a lot of time from a lot of people sat.
You're doing a second by second movements of these things.
I do not suggest that stop motion is in any way more difficult than CG. I just think the time and effort put into making it work is clearer to see than in a CG movie. It's actually physically, you can tell what has happened behind the scenes on screen when you're watching it, which is why I love stop motion and why I love these kind of movies. And reading up on Harryhausen just gives you more appreciation for what he was doing, just being able to lock yourself away in a room for weeks on end, filming seconds worth of footage.
Yeah, with these tiny little things. Yeah.
It's just incredible. And the Hydra in Jason and the Argonauts, you know, 8 snake heads moving around all over the place. I really also like the Harpies, which attack blind Patrick Troughton.
Oh, yeah.
It is one great movie monster after another in Jason and the Argonauts, and that's why I just had to bring it up for one of my favorite monster movies.
Good pick. I mean, it's not inherently a monster movie, but it's packed with monsters, so it definitely fits the bill. My second pick is something you probably haven't seen, so I don't know that you'll be able to contribute much to my thought process on this. And it's something I've been definitely trying to figure out how to work into Morgan hasn't seen. So if you guys have any ideas of how I could make this, you know, a movie in a series of films, unless we actually just do a series on monster movies,
possibly
or alien maybe movies, you could say, is Evolution.
Evolution.
I believe this was 2001. Ivan Reitman. It's basically like the alien version of Ghostbusters. So I absolutely love this movie. So I mean, you have your aliens, you have your predators, you have these iconic monster, more modern movies that I love, that are great. But this is one I just rewatch all the time, and it's hilarious. It's so funny. You have David Duchovny, Orlando Jones, which what happened to him? We may get into that in a
Orlando
future
Jones.
in a future episode
What
of
did
Monday
happen to
Madness.
Orlando Jones?
I mean, yes. And Julianne Moore, Ted Levine again pops up in this movie. Basically Sean William Scott, and they all kind of become this band of like our basically like our Ghostbusters. Android kind of crashes into Earth. It makes this big crater, and it starts affecting the plant life, which then evolves into animals, which then evolves into like these really insane kind of alien versions of things. Like it evolves really quickly. So you get these like flatworms that die as soon as they hit oxygen, but then they evolve to where now they can breathe oxygen, and it grows into like these things that could actually kill us. And
Okay.
you know, so David Duchovny and Orlando Jones are just these kind of, I believe it takes place like in New Mexico. And they are just scientists at a community college. They obviously really don't care about their jobs. You know, David Duchovny used to be like a legit scientist with the military, but he created this vaccine that like made all the soldiers incredibly sick, and like so like people like in the military hate him because they took his vaccine and like it almost killed them. So he, I think, got dishonorably discharged and now became the science professor at this college, and he obviously does not care about his job.
This
But
isn't
once
some anti-vax movie, is it, Jeannine?
no, well, if it's this
We don't,
vaccine,
we don't need that.
if it's this vaccine, it's definitely not one you want to take.
Okay.
So Sean William Scott, he discovers a creature and takes it to them because, you know, oh, they're science teachers, maybe they know, and they kind of start getting into what's going on here and trying to figure things out. They're trying to stop it. They're understanding it obviously more than the government is, and like so it's kind of like the Ghostbusters aspect of they know this stuff really well. They're figuring out how to fight it. Government doesn't want to listen. So definitely Ghostbusters with aliens. You get some really creepy monsters. You get this little slug-looking monster. You get like a pterodactyl type monster they have to fight in a mall. You get like the three main guys, Sean William Scott, Orlando Jones, and David Duchovny, having some really fun badass moments. Their chemistry is really funny. Julianne Moore kind of comes in because she's a scientist working with the military who ultimately kind of sides with them. So it's a lot of fun. It's hilarious. You get some really creepy monsters in there that they have to fight that are just kind of like, you know, evolve from things in our world. And yeah, basically Ghostbusters with aliens, I'd say. So it's a lot of fun, and I absolutely love it. It's definitely a monster movie that I revisit all the time. So definitely trying to find a way to work it into a Morgan Hasn't Seen, because I would love for you to watch it, because yeah, it makes me laugh. It's funny, and it's a lot of fun. So
I'll be honest with you, I haven't even heard of the movie.
Yeah, it's great.
So yeah, that is one that I think was worthwhile you bringing up, Jeannine.
Yes,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that as a pick. And why would you not love it? Reitman, Ghostbusters with aliens. It just speaks to you, doesn't it?
Yes,
really,
perfectly
entirely. Well, do you know what other movie from 2001 speaks to me, Jeannine?
Oh,
about monsters. Monsters Inc., Jeannine.
Wow.
Monsters Inc.
Okay, that's a good one, Morgan.
Because I'm a Monsters Inc. child. Obviously, people know how old I am. I'm very much a Monsters Inc. child.
Okay.
I love Monsters Inc. so much. I think it's probably my favorite Pixar movie. And it's totally different, obviously, to any other monster movie we're talking about right now.
Not. I mean, it like kind of has those little horror movements in the moments, and then it kind of obviously goes into
the
silliness of a kids movie.
It's obviously the whole society of monsters. It's monsters living with other monsters.
Monster versions of things in our world, and
exactly, it's
monsters having their job of scaring kids. That's such like a smart idea.
It's such a smart idea. It's such a sweet story. Such a heartwarming story, Monsters Inc. Back when Pixar was actually batting 1,000, and they weren't, you know,
do no wrong,
batting 150 like they are these days, and kind of, oh, that movie is half good. And that movie is terrible. And back when you feel Pixar actually fully cared about what they were putting out and not just trying to do things to do things, which I think
Yeah,
sometimes comes
it
across
kind
as
of
what
happens. Yeah.
Pixar are doing at the minute, even though they are still putting out, the odd very good movie. But Monsters Inc. I absolutely love. Again, it's obviously one I saw very early on, has stuck with me for so many
It's a
years.
good one. And you get some fun looking monsters too.
Fun looking monster design in that
Yeah.
movie's
Hair, I
fascinating.
think that was one of the kind of pioneering in CGI hair with Sully. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I remember having like a little teddy bear of Sully, and it was just great. It
Oh,
it it made me love monsters rather than be scared of monsters,
yeah. That's so sweet.
which I think is why it's so important and is why it's one of my favorite monster movies,
Yeah.
even though it's not at all really very scary. Like you said, there is scariness is a big plot point of the movie, but it's suspenseful at times more than it is scary.
And sweet and emotional as well.
Very sweet. I've always loved the the door conveyors. They've always been so unbelievably satisfying to me.
Yes, I always
All
wanted
the
a boo door.
the
Like
no
just paint a
the
door.
chase through the
Yeah, on that.
doors. Oh, it's so I just love the idea of a load of just conveyor things going all around the place,
Yeah.
and they all just know where they're going, but it just looks
Yeah.
like a complete mess. I could just watch and follow those kind of things for so
Yeah, that's why I
long.
love the little ride at Disneyland. They have a little Monsters Inc. ride. It just goes kind of, it's like a dark ride where it just kind of goes through the story of the movie, and you see like the room with all the doors kind of going, and you see
Okay,
Boo and Sully like swinging on a door trying to get away
okay,
from
I like
Randall,
that.
and yeah.
I need to go on that now.
Yes.
Clearly, don't I?
Yes. Yeah.
But it also obviously teaches you to not just mindlessly listen to what you're supposedly supposed to do.
Yeah.
Maybe there's better ways of doing things that don't actually harm people,
Yeah.
and you can actually get a hell of a lot more out of making people laugh, making people smile,
Yes, I
than you
love the kind
can
of how they
making people
twist that
scared.
around. Yeah, I love the spin on that.
And that's an idea that I've always held dear, is the idea that you get a hell of a lot more out of being nice to people and making people laugh than you do being horrible to people and terrifying them.
Yeah.
Even though you might look like a big, ugly, horrible creature, just be
Yeah.
nice, and people won't be scared of you.
Yes,
You
and I
know
think I like that it plays to, Mike's strengths because he was never like the biggest scarer. But now, like
exactly.
now that it's laughter, he comes in and does a whole little comedy routine. So now he's like one of the best workers
I
at
did.
the
I did
at the
say it
plant.
wasn't a horror movie. I did say it wasn't a horror movie, but honestly, Randall is kind of terrifying
Right?
in the entire movie, and
Yes.
certainly as a child, he was deeply
Steve
terrifying.
Buscemi. It was great voice casting for that for sure.
Wonderful voice casting.
And I
Wonderful
also
voice
love
casting.
in Monsters University how they like the reason Randall like squints like that is because he had glasses and he decided to stop wearing them. And so like he takes his glasses off and then he does the like squint because
I mean, look, Monsters University, I never kind of fully got into,
I really loved Monsters University.
but
I had a
Monsters
lot of fun with
Inc.
that one.
Monsters Inc. 100%. And also, I'll have to throw this out there as well. Uh, they name their restaurant Harryhausen's, don't they? So
Yes, that's a fun little nod right there. So you just
it
have this really
it
nice
loves
through
monster
line.
movies as well.
You have a nice through line with all of your picks.
I do. I have the Harryhausen influence, Harryhausen
Totally.
himself,
Mhm.
and then
A
something influenced
reference.
by Harryhausen.
Harryhausen. Yeah.
It's perfect. It's
Yes.
perfect. No, Monsters Inc. is my third pick.
That's a
I
good one.
adore Monsters Inc.
That's a good one. Mine is kind of silly, but I love it. Um,
There's nothing wrong with silliness, Jeannine.
Mine is the Monster Squad.
The Monster Squad.
from 1987. We actually did a fun watch along. You watched it for the first time because you
We
are a fan of,
did.
well, you love the Universal monsters. So I thought, let's see if Morgan can get on board with this like Goonies knockoff with Universal monsters
I
movie.
remember enjoying the Monster Squad to a point.
Yes.
I think it doesn't use some of its monsters particularly
No,
well.
it doesn't. But it was just fun seeing those iconic monsters together in a movie. Like, if you really thought about it, you could see Dracula as like the leader, like, and the
100%.
rest of them kind of just following his lead. Frankenstein kind of turning to the nice side. We did talk about, your sympathetic monsters. You could see Frankenstein going with the kids and being your sloth
Yeah.
type character.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like, kids, because like as a kid you want to do that. You want to be like, I can take on this and I can do these things and be a part of this cool adventure. So movies like that definitely play to that sensibility you had as a kid. And yes, it's very knockoff Goonies, but I think the monster element really kind of sets it apart and makes it really fun. So yeah, I mean, I love Monster Squad. It's just very kind of silly. My little dream was uh, before having seen anything from the Dark Universe, was like, okay, let's make some good Dark Universe, new Universal monster movies. Get Shane Black back on board, and have them all come together in a Monster Squad legacy sequel.
But it wouldn't be treated. It'd be treated way too self-seriously.
I know,
And I think
but
the good thing about Monster Squad is that it treats itself absolutely
not.
ridiculously.
Yes, but if Shane Black was involved, that he wrote the original Monster Squad, I think he definitely could have brought that sensibility, depending on what they would have done with those other movies had they happened and the Mummy hadn't been a piece of trash.
And the Invisible Man, the new Invisible Man, hadn't been genuinely
Genuinely
terrifyingly
like
great.
a terrifying, serious thing. Had they set a more kind of tone that was a good balance between the, the very kind of silly spectacle horror of the original and the serious of, what I think they were going for. I think they could have met in the middle somewhere with a Mummy, like a 1999 Mummy style kind of movies. And had that happened, Shane Black, get on it, write a Monster Squad legacy sequel, please. But then, yes, then I did watch Tom Cruise's The Mummy, and it was not great.
Well,
and they were trying too hard to just focus on the Dark Universe instead of focusing on what that movie needed to be.
Yeah.
And it just kind of killed it. So yeah,
wasn't it all supposed to start back up with Dracula Untold?
It was. Well, they tried to start it several times. I think they were trying to start it up with Benicio del Toro's Wolfman, and then they tried with I, Frankenstein, and then I think they did that Victor Frankenstein whatever movie, I think with Daniel Radcliffe and was it James McAvoy?
Yes, it is. I remember that.
Yeah, so they tried several times. I think Hollow Man. So I would actually love to do like
Not
maybe
Hollow Man.
Hollow Man is the Invisible Man story.
Oh dear.
With Kevin Bacon. So I kind of would love to do maybe like in April as like a nod to April Fools, just do like a series on bad Universal's movies.
I'd really rather not.
I think it would be hilarious. We have that Van Helsing movie with
I will hear no bad words about Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman. I like that movie.
Okay, you actually like it. Okay.
I like that movie. It's very similar to how I like 2010's Clash of the Titans. Okay. I like that movie.
Fair enough. But yes, so they definitely tried several times, but I think Dracula Untold was like the first of really like, let's build a universe, because I think there was actually an end credit scene that built up to something else.
Okay.
But it didn't go anywhere. So yeah, my dream would have been this Dark Universe actually being good and leading to a Monster Squad legacy sequel, because the movie is just a lot of fun. It's really great seeing all of these monsters kind of come together. I just have a lot of fun with it. So
I like that. I like that pick, Jeannine. Heart is the important thing in our monster movies, Jeannine, and I think that has been a through line there. I mean,
it's very
we've talked about 3 monster movies each there, but I think we have some little bit of an honorable mention list to bring up. Maybe 1 or 2 other recommendations for people or for each other, perhaps.
Yeah.
What are those, Jeannine?
So one of my picks is Love and Monsters. It's a film with Dylan O'Brien. I believe it came out maybe like in the last 2 years, like 2020,
Okay.
2021. Basically like something was like falling from the sky. You know, the military tried to shoot it down. Obviously, all the chemicals in the things that we use to shoot things down made some toxic consequences and decided to kind of turn all of our animals into monsters. So like you have these giant killer snails and giant killer toads and giant killer slugs. And so the world is now this dystopian world full of monsters. And Dylan O'Brien, before all of this happened, he was dating a girl they had just met and were dating, I think, just for the summer. And then the world goes to shit. He goes with his parents, she goes with her parents, and 7 years pass and he hasn't seen her. He's with his little colony, she's with her colony. He finally is able to kind of contact her on a radio. And the colony he's with is pretty much all couples. So he's just kind of there. He doesn't really feel like he has a purpose. He is known for freezing. Like if something is about to attack them, he just freezes and can't really contribute. So he feels kind of useless and lonely, even though he has a colony who cares about him. So he decides, you know what? I love this girl. We had a great summer together. I still think about her. I'm going to go to her. I'm going to take the trek, the 7-day trek to her colony. And so it's just kind of this journey of him, you know, discovering the world and learning to be brave, and he's doing it for love. And you know, so it's this guy kind of discovering himself, and he meets some great characters along the way who help him. He finds a dog. So it's a really great kind of, you know, growth story of this guy. You really like him, so you kind of want to follow his story. He makes some very great bonds with people. You see some really insane monsters, like you do see a giant toad that tries to kill him. It's just terrifying. All in hopes of getting to this girl that he had this great summer with before the world went to shit. So Love and Monsters is a really fun one. And my other pick is Colossal. I think this is mid 2000s with Anne Hathaway, Jason Sudeikis. This girl, she's kind of just a mess in her life. She's constantly going out drinking and forgetting things. Her relationship is falling apart. She doesn't have a job, so her boyfriend is like, you know, I can't deal with you. You're coming home every night completely hungover. We can't talk. We don't spend any time together. You're not even trying to like fix your life and find a job and get your shit together. We're done. I'm kicking you out. So she ends up moving back to her hometown, moving in her parents' house. She runs into her childhood friend, Jason Sudeikis. He gives her a job at his bar. And there's this playground by her house. And, you know, she will kind of get drunk and forget things and go there. And then all of a sudden on the news, it pops up that in Seoul, China, this monster just appears. And
Seoul, China, that's not up. Seoul, Korea.
Seoul, Korea. Sorry. This monster appears, and nobody knows where it came from. It'll just appear and like disappear until Anne Hathaway realizes that she is that monster. When she goes to this park and steps into the grounds of this park in her childhood home, that monster of hers shows up in Seoul and is like copying her motion. So if she like raises her head, she hits a building and kills a bunch of people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. So it's kind of her dealing with that, trying to figure that out. And somebody realizes she has this ability and some jealousy is involved, and it has a lighthearted tone, but then it actually gets pretty dark. And somebody else kind of realizes they might have that ability to create something that pops up in Seoul as well. And yeah, so it starts out very kind of weird, quirky, a little bit lighthearted, and then it takes kind of a dark turn. So definitely a really creative, interesting, unique monster movie with Colossal. So those would be my two.
Well, I mean, I have a couple as well, but they're old. Obviously,
of course
they're
they
old.
are.
It's me. Hi. Remember me? I like old movies, obviously. No, one of them's another Harryhausen movie, Jeannine. It's Harryhausen's first feature movie that he worked on. It's The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms from 1953, which has also been covered on the main show. There's been no better movie dinosaur until Jurassic Park than the dinosaur in The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
Okay.
It's, like I said, it's important for being Harryhausen's first stop motion effects in a big movie, but it's also a really, really good 50s giant monster sci-fi movie
Ooh,
that
fun.
is in the early 50s, so
Mhm.
it predates a lot of the stupid stuff that came 56, 7-ish.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, we can often think of 50s sci-fi horror, big monster movies and that kind of stuff as just being absolutely silly. This is as near to an American genuine Godzilla movie of the time that you're actually going to get. It predates Godzilla. Godzilla's
Wow.
54.
Okay.
So this predates Godzilla, and this is a giant dinosaur going around destroying a city, a US city. So it has the fear that something
Yeah.
like Godzilla has. I think Godzilla's particularly special. I know we haven't spoken about
I
Godzilla at
know.
all, which is
I
strange.
think we were trying to be a little bit more unique as opposed to the kind of the big things that everyone would
Perhaps
pick.
we were. Godzilla obviously is phenomenal, not just for a monster movie, but for being a genuine horror movie for the people of Japan.
Yeah.
Like ridiculously so. The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, like I said, it is pretty much an American Godzilla that actually predates Godzilla and is Harryhausen's first movie. So I think it should be watched by people. And there is an episode of the main show on that movie. And it's also one of my very, very favourite titles, because who the hell knows how long a distance 20,000 fathoms is?
Yes.
Nobody knows how long
it
that
just
is.
sounds epic, the word fathoms.
The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
Yeah.
That could be anything. You
Like
don't know where that is.
The Little Mermaid has a song on its soundtrack, The Fathoms Below, and it's like, that is a good word to like. Just,
It's a great word,
yeah,
fathoms.
it's very seaworthy and epic, and like it just
is.
puts that sensibility in your head. So
It is. I also had to put a Universal monster movie in there as well. It is the first sequel of Dracula. It's Dracula's Daughter from
I remember seeing
1935.
you recently watch that.
I did recently watch it for the very, very first time. It's kind of great. It's really unique for being the first sequel to Dracula. I mean, we often think of the Frankenstein sequels being genuinely good sequels and all this kind of stuff, and unfortunately the Dracula sequels don't get forgotten about, but don't get spoken about to as much of an extent. I think it's because they've not got Lugosi in them, to be honest with you, and what how Universal kind of treated Lugosi is a mix of, we really like you, Bella, but also let's actually not be very nice to you. Let's put you in some movies, but then leave you to become broke. And then it's a tragic story, really, that basically just go and watch Ed Wood if you want a little bit of an accurate, even though it's a little bit of a dramatization, isn't it? But it's somewhat accurate in terms of attitude. Although Lugosi never hated Boris Karloff. That's not actually true.
Yeah. I think Ed Wood,
at all.
The film Ed Wood, kind of perpetuated that.
It does. They made several movies together and got on quite well from genuine accounts. And believe me, I have definitely read up on that kind of stuff. But Dracula's Daughter is a great movie, and it's different, obviously, because it's a female vampire, and it's the 30s, and it's unique in that sense. It's very, very unique in that sense. There's a different aura to Dracula's Daughter than there is to Dracula.
Well,
it's a funny movie at times. It brings back Edward Van Sloan as Van Helsing.
Well, now I just want a team-up movie between The Bride of Frankenstein and Dracula's daughter.
Dracula's daughter also gets far more screen time than the Bride of Frankenstein does in the Bride of Frankenstein. Poor Elsa Lanchester she gets more screen time playing Mary Shelley at the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie than she does actually playing the Bride of Frankenstein in the Bride of Frankenstein. It's weird. But I did want to just mention Dracula's daughter because how it took me this long to watch it.
Yes, that's a very Morgan-sounding movie.
I just don't want it to take as long for other people. So go and watch the Dracula sequels. Go and watch Son of Dracula as well, and House of Dracula, and House of Frankenstein, and all the rest of them. All the rest of them. But the first sequel to Dracula with Lugosi is Dracula's daughter. And it is just a little bit unfortunate how in Dracula's daughter, you do actually see Dracula's dead body from the end of Dracula, and it's clearly just a really quite bad waxwork of Lugosi.
Oh no, boo.
Which, yeah, there's things with Universal monster movies and how
it happens.
They treated some of the cast members and were very. If a cinematic universe, as it were, which essentially it kind of was, if something like that came out today, in today's world of cinematic universes, and was as strewn together as the Universal Monster Movies universe was, with all its recasting and all its redoing and all its kind of retconning of things, people would lose their damn minds over it.
Probably, yeah.
They would, and nobody, they don't seem to care. They just want to go and watch a movie titled with Dracula in the name was enough to sell it.
Yeah.
They didn't need perfect story links because, oh my god, some of the Frankenstein stuff
that was not accurate from what happened in the last movie. Yeah, no.
They just redo some scenes and complete. The Mummy ones are awful for it. They completely just do over things. And the sequel to the Mummy, which is it the Mummy's Tomb or the Curse? Oh, they're all a bit. The titles of them get confusing in my mind. But it's a completely different mummy. It doesn't. It's really strange. Mummy. It's not remotely the same mummy. Karloff's nowhere to be. So it's all over the place. Yeah. It's all over the place. But I love it as an entity. But yeah, Dracula's daughter. That's my last one of those. Jeannine, we are going a bit long. I think we have found our time. I really do.
I know.
But I
want to streamline it, but it's like the flow of the show is the flow of the show. So
exactly. We can't help that. There's a lot to get into.
Yeah.
There's a lot to get into. And we like doing that kind of thing. But Jeannine, I think it's time to end this episode of Monday Madness with a little bit of fun and games. Yes. Jeannine, what are we doing? Trivia? What type of trivia? What's happening with the trivia?
Morgan, I asked you, what is one of your favorite movie monsters?
Yes.
Type. What is your favorite? One of your favorite types of movie monster?
You did. Well, all of our questions are based on one type of movie monster, aren't they?
Yes.
So all of mine are based on one type and all of yours are based on one type. I have actually chosen all of my movies are based on the Frankenstein's monster.
Okay.
Or Frankenstein's monster.
Okay.
Or the creature. Or whatever you want to call him. All of my questions are based on movies relating to Frankenstein's monster.
Okay. Well, all of my questions are based on vampires.
Okay. Do you want to alternate these, Jeannine? Are we giving each other a little bit of a time limit?
Yes, we can alternate and watch the time.
20 seconds. We can do a countdown if you want, or a gloating if somebody doesn't know the
Yes, I like the gloating.
We'll do a gloating.
Especially since I finished this cocktail and I'm ready to gloat.
No, well, that's not very nice, is it, Jeannine? Would you like me to go first, or would you like to go first?
You can go first.
I will go first, then. My first question in the realm of Frankenstein's monster movies is what is the first name of Dr. Frankenstein in 1931's Frankenstein?
Oh my gosh.
Tick, 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 tick.
Victor Frankenstein.
Jeannine, that is the incorrect answer. Victor Frankenstein is the name of Frankenstein in every other Frankenstein thing ever.
Are you serious?
The name of Dr. Frankenstein in 1931's Frankenstein, as played by Colin Clive, is Henry.
Oh, okay.
Henry Frankenstein.
Okay.
Why? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows why they didn't just call him Victor. It's weird.
You'll get this. My question's pretty easy.
And yours a vampire-related question.
Yes, Morgan.
Yes.
In Blackula.
Oh.
Blackula orders what type of drink at the nightclub?
Blackula orders a Bloody Mary, Jeannine.
Yes.
He orders a Bloody
Mary. And he does a
Mary.
very nice little turn to the camera. I'll have a Bloody Mary. William Marshall.
Applause for Blackula. Round of applause for Blackula. So good. We love Blackula. And that's not ironic either. It's genuinely a great movie.
Yes.
Second question, Jeannine. Who played Igor in both Son of Frankenstein, 1939, and Ghost of Frankenstein, 1942?
Oh, what is his name?
It may also not be who you're thinking of.
I know.
Some would say it's more impressive than anything else in those movies. He who played Igor in these movies is the standout.
Oh, yes. Oh, what? Is it the guy from Casablanca?
And it is not.
It's not him.
It is not. Although, if Peter Lorre had played Igor, I think that would be a great thing.
Right? Then I don't know. I don't know. You're stumping me again.
Jeannine, Bela Lugosi played Igor in Son of Frankenstein and Ghost of Frankenstein.
Seriously?
Yes, he did.
Oh my gosh.
He did.
Okay.
Bela Lugosi. A great performance as Igor as well. Full, hunchbacked, bearded, all giving it the big stuff.
Yes.
It's great.
Good question.
Big stuff. I've lost my mind. I don't know what's going on anymore. Oh, yes. Well, Jeannine, that would be... I'm winning so far.
You are. Question 2.
Yes.
Roddy McDowall's character in Fright Night was named for what 2 horror icons?
Roddy McDowall. Oh, dear. Roddy McDowall looked like Peter Cushing in Fright Night, so I'm going to have to go with Peter Cushing.
There's 2.
And... What was his name? What was his name at all? It's a vampire movie, Jeannine. I'll give you that. Fright Night. Yes. Roddy McDowall in Fright Night. What a great performance as well. I'm going with Cushing, and I'm going with Vincent Price.
That is correct. His name is Peter Vincent, and I hate you.
I thought it was Peter Vincent. I thought it was because he looked like Peter Cushing so much,
and his character was kind of based off of those
Peter Cushing's Van Helsing with his coat and hat. I'm going to win the trivia.
You are going to win because, of course, you picked old movies. Thank you.
Well, this one's not that old, and is actually a fun casting question in itself. Jeannine, question 3 is who played the blind old man in Young Frankenstein, directed by Mel Brooks in 1974.
I've never seen Young Frankenstein.
Oh, this is disgraceful, Jeannine.
I know.
I mean, I've only seen it once, to be fair, but still.
But yes, this is a pop culture lexicon type movie that I have not seen. You got me again. I have no idea.
Are you aware of Frankenstein and his relationship with a blind old man?
No.
You have watched The Bride of Frankenstein?
No.
It's in that movie.
I have not.
You haven't watched The Bride of Frankenstein? Oh, Jeannine, this is well, Frankenstein's monster likes going to the house of a blind old man.
Okay.
And they have fun and they smoke and they drink with each other, and it's all very nice and sweet. And Frankenstein's monster learns human kindness and all this kind of stuff, and then gets
Okay.
frightened by fire. And who plays the blind old man in Young Frankenstein is Gene Hackman.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Gene Hackman, in like prime Gene Hackman years, just came to a Mel Brooks movie to do something a bit silly, which is I always kind of like about that. But yes, there
all
you
movies
go.
on my list. I just never watched them.
Shocking.
So maybe we'll have to do another Jeannine hasn't seen.
Frankenstein movies, by the sounds of it.
Yes. Okay, question 3. What do vampires call werewolves in the Underworld franchise?
Oh, I haven't got a clue. I have never watched an Underworld movie in my entire life. Is that the one with Mila Jovovich, or is that the one with the other one?
I believe Mila Jovovich and Resident Evil are about zombies, the undead.
Oh, yeah. See, it is it? It's the one with Kate Beckinsale, isn't it?
Yes.
Always get them confused. Could never tell the difference in the slightest between Resident Evil and Underworld. What they would call werewolves. What would vampires call werewolves in Underworld?
They're sworn enemies in the series.
They're sworn. Well, it's not what we do in the shadows, so they don't just go, we're werewolves, not swearwolves, or something stupid like that. And it's not Rhys Darby, is it? No, obviously. They would call them... What's a horrible name for a dog? Muttley. Muttley. They call them Muttley. Yes, that's my answer.
They refer to them as lichens.
Oh, I see. I see. Oh, I see. Well, that makes sense. Lycanthropy and all that business.
Yes.
That is.
We might have to do the Underworld series on Morgan hasn't
No,
seen.
let's not do that. They're all the same movie, aren't they?
I mean, they actually do a little flashback one where we see Michael Sheen's character's origins, and it's called, Underworld: Rise of the Lichens. Yeah.
Do you actually like these movies?
I mean, they do get a bit ridiculous, but I would definitely take Underworld series over Resident Evil.
Okay.
They're all kind of the same, but they all have this very 2000s-y dark, alternative mood, which I kind of dig.
Dark aesthetic.
I actually cosplayed as Kate Beckinsale's character for Halloween one year. I was her,
It's not the one with Mila Jovovich.
No, it's not.
Oh, even they look the same. Even Mila Jovovich and Kate Beckinsale look the exact same.
No.
And I wouldn't. They do. They do. Everything about both of those franchises is just the same. It is. They all wear leather.
They are very.
They do all wear leather.
They do. I mean, it's not leather. It's like latex.
It looks like leather.
It's latex, but
it's ridiculously over tight. And shiny.
Yes, that.
Jeannine, who directed more Frankenstein movies? James Whale for Universal or Terence Fisher for Hammer?
Ooh.
I think this is actually straightforward if you just think logically about it, Jeannine. Logic comes into play.
No.
We have Universal's Frankenstein movies.
Yeah.
Hammer's Frankenstein movies. But did James Whale and Terence Fisher direct all movies in each one of their franchises?
Yeah.
This is what has to be figured out.
I'm going to go with James Whale.
Jeannine, the answer is Terence Fisher, who directed 5 Frankenstein movies for Hammer. James Whale only directed 2 Frankenstein movies for Universal, Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein.
I was just in my head, I was like, there's a movie about James Whale. That must mean he did a lot more than that.
James Whale did do a lot more than that, but it wasn't just Frankenstein movies he was known for. Let's not forget that James Whale also did direct The Invisible Man.
Yeah. Yes. I just got
And
gods and
several other
monsters in
things.
my head, and
several other things that weren't actually monster movie related.
yes.
Well, actually, I'm gonna ask my last question as well, because it's kind of a similar
Two-part question.
question. Not a
Okay.
two-part question, but a
Just
similar
let me
question.
give me my loss right away. Okay.
Is what was the final Frankenstein movie Terence Fisher directed for Hammer?
Frankenstein meets Abbott and Costello.
No, Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein was in the 40s, Jeannine.
Oh, I have no clue.
You definitely know. The last movie that Terence Fisher directed for Hammer that was a Frankenstein movie was Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell.
Yeah,
In
I would not have known
1974.
that.
Yes. My
I should have just
questions were
known.
appropriately
Morgan's going to pick
difficult.
old things, so I should
Yes.
just okay.
Success.
Well, my last two questions. Morgan, what
Yes.
US city does Interview with a Vampire take place in?
It's New Orleans, Jeannine. I've been.
Sigh. Okay. Well, I'll get you at least with this one.
Will you? Will you?
Yes.
Is it a Twilight question? It is, isn't
How
it?
old does Edward say he is in Twilight Saga New Moon?
It definitely is a Twilight question. Oh, God, how old is he? 300 and something. 350? I'll go 350.
He's 109.
Is that it?
Yes, because it's Bella's birthday and she doesn't want anyone to know. And she's like, I'm older than you. And he's like, I'm 109. You're not older than me.
Who's 350? Which one's 350? One of them
Maybe
is.
Michael Sheen.
Oh, no, wait a minute. I think Taika Waititi from What We Do in the Shadows is about 350. That's why. Oh, dear. Well, yes.
I should have just asked all Twilight questions. And then we
Well,
would have been on even ground, I think.
I'm quite pleased with myself, Jeannine.
Yes, as you should be. I knew you were going to do this to me.
The perfectly valid questions you asked for trivia based around a monster.
Yes,
I gave you. I supplied.
Fair enough.
I actually don't think some of the questions were that difficult. Granted, I would have been impressed if you'd have got Terence Fisher's last Hammer Frankenstein movie, but
yeah,
you know, some of the others, Jeannine, some of the others. Anyway, there we go. I think, Jeannine, for episode 2 of Monday Madness.
Yes.
Definitely madness, definitely craziness today. I think we've enjoyed ourselves again, though.
We have. We definitely have.
Jeannine's definitely enjoyed herself. Well, Jeannine, this is, of course, not the only show that people can find on the It's a Wonderful podcast feed, nor is it the only thing here on the It's a Wonderful podcast YouTube channel in full video form either, is it?
It is not. If you want to watch more video stuff of our faces, we do fun watch-alongs. We have discussions on TV shows and movies coming out. So check those out. We maybe on occasion we'll put some fun little things on here. So yeah, check out our YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe, notification bell, all of the things to support us here on YouTube. And if you want to listen to us in audio format as well, we have Morgan Hasn't Seen every Wednesday, where I force Morgan to watch things he hasn't seen. Really fun show where I have all the power. So, you beat me here today, Morgan. But
I did.
I always win on Morgan.
But you'll be winning on Wednesday. You will.
I mean, I think you're a winner too. You tend to enjoy the things I choose for you. So
I do. I'm certainly enjoying it at the minute with modern Shakespeare.
Yes.
And all that fun times. It's good.
Yes. And of course, every Friday we have our main show, It's a Wonderful Podcast, where we give love to classic films. Of course, Morgan, obviously, loving those classic films.
I apologize for what I love, you know.
But yes, that's where we talk all classic movies, and it's a fun time. So check it out.
Well, this week's episode of the main show is you and I again, Jeannine. We'll be talking The Big Clock. Charles Lawton's back on the main show.
Yes.
Ray Milland. Fun, unique noir. It's a great movie, The Big Clock. Look out for that on Friday, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. we have you covered here on the It's a Wonderful podcast feed. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, It's a Wonderful Podcast on YouTube. Ding your notification bells over there. Leave likes and comments on this video if you are watching, of course. And yeah, for all the other stuff we have on YouTube as well. We have the watch-alongs. We have the live discussions. We have other fun videos on here as well. But of course, we do mainly live over on the audio podcast feed. You can find that on Anchor, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcast, Castbox, Amazon Music, all the other places. We also have the It's a Wonderful Podcast Patreon, which has been going across the bottom of the screen the entire episode. If you are watching, patreon.com/itsawonderful1 if you would like to support us on there. We also have a donation link in the description of this episode. If maybe you don't want to become a patron, but you would like to just offer a little donation, we certainly do not ask for it, but we just inform you that it is there if you are feeling particularly generous. You can find the show on Twitter at It's a Wonderful One. Find me on Twitter at the Purple Don with a 3 instead of the E in the because, Jeannine.
3 is the magic number.
On Instagram at just the Purple Don. All your monstrous stuff is where?
You can find me at Jeannine__ on Twitter, Jeannine on Instagram and TikTok. If you want to get any merch for any of our shows, we have a brand new It's a Wonderful Podcast store on teespring.com, link in the description below. And I am an artiste from time to time, so if you would like to purchase any of my art in print form, you can find that at my Big Cartel shop, g9design.bigcartel.com. And if you want to make this drink I made, courtesy of the Blonde Party on TikTok, that will also be in the description.
I think you've enjoyed that drink.
A jalapeno margarita. It was pretty good.
I can tell you very much enjoyed that. I think everybody can tell you very much enjoyed that drink today. And why the hell shouldn't you? Why the hell shouldn't you, Jeannine? But there we go. I think there's only one thing left to do. Let's do it in a monster voice, Jeannine. Pick a monster. Bye.